Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, staff. I see that we have quorum, and I call this regular meeting for the Town of Pelham Council to order. We will begin with an invocation led by Councillor Papp, followed by the singing of the national anthem led by the Fonthill Scouts. So we're going to call on Councillor Papp first and then the Scouts, and I would ask all to rise, please.
Let us bow our head. Lord, give us in this day your strength and courage to do your will. Grant the members of Pelham Council to demonstrate humility, listen with an open mind, and show wisdom in all of their deliberations and matter of business before them. Bring them to this council honor, trust, and dignity to work on behalf of all the people of Pelham. And as well, if we take a moment to recognize and acknowledge the suffering of those people in the Philippines, that we should really be careful in understanding how truly lucky we are, and our prayers and thoughts go for them as well. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councillor Papp. And now the Scouts we turn to the flag, but I would ask you to now start singing of the national anthem. Go ahead, please.
Canada, our home and native land, true patriot all, in all thy sons command. With flowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you so much for leading us in the national anthem. And thank you, Councillor Papp, for your invocation as well.
Thank you.
The first thing we have to do before we hear from some of our friends is the approval of the agenda. It has been moved by Councillor Ribiak, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that the agenda for the November 18th, 2013 regular meeting of council be adopted. Are there any amendments or changes to the agenda? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. That is any conflicts of interest. Do any members have any conflicts they need to disclose?
None, Mr. Mayor.
I do have one conflict, and it's under Section 20, Item Number 2, because I am one of the applicants for a position that council will be considering. And I would ask perhaps Councillor Kersey can chair, as Deputy Mayor, can chair that portion of the meeting, and I'll leave the chamber. But there are no other conflicts. Can that be so noted? Thank you very much. Next, we have hearings of presentations and delegations. And I'm very pleased to welcome members of the Fonthill Scouts. And I believe William Hamilton is going to give us a presentation. And certainly all the Scouts are going to join with him at the podium. William, why don't you come on up to the podium? Thank you for joining us this evening. Wait till your colleagues are gathered there.
Dear Mayor Dave and Pelham Council, we would like to adopt Marlene Stewart Park. We would keep it safe and clean and very inviting. We would also fix bridges and pick up garbage. Other improvements we could offer are to clean and level the paths, make picnic tables and bird houses and feeders to put in the park. Finally, we would like to plant trees and flowers. Thank you for your consideration.
That is wonderful. Thank you very much for your kind offer. We certainly appreciate that. And the copy we have is signed by each of you. You can make out your names. So thank you very much for that. I wonder if members of council certainly have a very generous offer. I wonder if they have any questions for you at this time. That's what we normally do when we have a presentation by members of the public. Any questions? I understand you meet at Fonthill United Church, so it's not that far for you to make your way down to the park?
Yeah.
Is that why you thought of Marlene Stewart Street Park?
Yeah, because it's close and we know a lot about it.
You know a lot about it?
Yeah,
Very
we've,
good.
We've gone walks in the trails and saw the bridges and stuff.
Oh, excellent. So those bridges on the Paul Lemmy Trail, they probably do need some work.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued that you, and I think council colleagues are as well, that you want to make some picnic tables and benches and things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That would be a great picnic spot, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think of the skate park that's being constructed there?
I will definitely go to it.
What was that, the fella in the back? You're not going to go? You're not too happy about it? Uh-oh. Well, maybe we can, with your help, put something else in that park that you would be happy about. So thank you very much. Do we need to?
I have a motion to receive and refer to just, you might want to ask Ms. Van Raven.
Ms. Van Ravensway, I know that the motion that we have, I'm going to call on staff to ask a question. I know that we have a Friends of Marlene Stewart Street Park already, and I know that certainly adopting a park is allowed and welcome. So can you just comment, the recommendation that's going to be before us is that it be referred to staff for a report. Can you comment on the rationale for that or the process to move forward?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. What we'll do is we have a group that already looks after the park, and it's called the Friends of Marlene Stewart Street Park. But I am positive that they would appreciate your assistance. And I will be in contact with them. And we do have certain forms that need to be filled out, in which I'm sure your scout leaders can help us out with that. And we welcome the offer.
Thank you very much. So can we accept, I'd like to accept the offer. I don't know what council colleagues think when we do that, accept the kind offer to adopt the park. So thank you very much. I do have a motion. We do things through motions or resolutions. So it has been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that the information presented by the Fawn Hill Scouts offering to adopt the Marlene Stewart Street Park be received, and that the request be referred to staff for a report at a future meeting. Do we want to make an amendment to this that we receive and accept the kind offer from the Scouts? Councillor Papp, you'll move that, seconded by Councillor Kersey, so that we receive and accept the kind offer. All those in favor of that amendment? That amendment is carried. And now to the main motion as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. We appreciate your kind offer. We've now accepted your offer to adopt the park, and town staff, Ms. Van Ravensway, will be in contact with some of your scout leaders to finalize all the details. But this is wonderful. Thank you so much, and I hope you keep us up to speed, informed of your activities that you're doing in the park, so that perhaps we might be able to help you out a little bit too. Any questions? No? Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it. Let's give them a round of applause for their presentation. Thank you so much. And you don't have to stay for the entire meeting. I know some of you might want to.
Unless you want to be bored.
But you're more than, you can, we have public meetings here and you can stay here. Oh, it's their regular meeting night, so they are planning to stay. That's excellent. Is there a civic badge that you can get? Next, we do have another presentation, and this is by Deloitte, our auditors, regarding the 2013 audit service plan. We have Trevor Ferguson and Elaine Farr, who's in the back waving. Mr. Ferguson, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and that's a very tough act to follow. So I understand I've only been given an hour, so I'll do my best to keep things as quickly. I'm just kidding. 10 minutes, I was told. Just kidding. So just by way of introduction, I know that the council member council doesn't know me that well. My name is Trevor Ferguson. I'm a partner at Deloitte, and I'll be taking on the audit this year. I have a lot of experience in auditing municipalities and things like that, so you needn't worry about me being the new guy. But I'll definitely be working with Carrie and her team, and look forward to the audit this year. So I think what's best is if I quickly walk through the executive summary and even just hit the highlights of that. And by all means, if you have any questions as we go through, don't hesitate to interrupt. So I'm looking on page 1 of our executive summary. The first piece I wanted to touch upon was just with respect to materiality. Clearly, we're not here around on every day throughout the year. We do perform our audit with the concepts of materiality in mind. So we will be evaluating materiality based on consolidated expenditures for the town for the year. And what should really be of interest to you is what we consider to be our clearly trivial threshold, and that's 5% of materiality. So as part of our audit, if we identify an error, whether or not it's corrected by management that's greater than 5% of our materiality, we're going to tell you about it as part of our year-end report to you. In terms of internal control, just looking at the bottom of page 1, the purpose of our audit is not to do a deep dive and deep review of the internal controls in place at the town. We will test the design and implementation of internal controls related to the financial reporting process and those that we consider relevant. It won't be a scope of a huge internal control review, so there's often some confusion in terms of what it is that we do and don't do. So it's for what you may be considered that it is that you think that we're doing, it's actually a little bit more high level than that in terms of the internal control piece. If I was to move over to page 2, and just right at the top, I highlight the fact that this is considered a group audit. That's because the financial statements of the town are consolidated financial statements. So there's the operations of the town as well as the library, the airport commission, and the energy company, all within the financial statements that we'll be providing an opinion on. In terms of the use of the work of experts, in terms of the IT systems, there has been a change in the system this year, a slight upgrade in the financial system. So our IT experts, that's certainly not me, but our IT experts within the firm will be helping out just to test the conversion from the old system to the new system to make sure that the data transferred over properly, things like that. And in terms of other matters, just at the bottom of page 2, independence is highlighted. We'll be providing you with an independence letter as part of our year-end results report to you to state that we are in fact independent and thus can provide you with an independent auditor's report. We always consider that to be a good thing. There are some other matters throughout the document that I'm just given the time constraints, I don't propose to go through. But I'm happy to answer any questions or go into any more detail you have about anything else. I will be reaching out to the members of council probably later in the fall or early in the winter with respect to some questions that we're required to ask you as part of Canadian auditing standards. But we'll be in touch on those. So with that, I'll take a pause and take any questions you have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ferguson, for your presentation and for the very detailed document that you provided council. I wonder if members of council have any questions for our auditor regarding their audit plan. There don't seem to be any. It does seem, I was going to say, you talked about a consolidated budget. I hope the schedule can be a little bit quicker. I think we were waiting for some of the documents from the utility, the power utility last year, and that has been slightly less complicated with the sale of that asset at Niagara West Transformation Corporation. So hopefully we can make sure that those audits are approved by council a little bit earlier.
Our fingers are crossed.
Good. Thank you very much. And no other questions by members of council? So I do have a motion moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak, that the 2013 audit service plan presented by Deloitte Chartered Professional Accountants be received for information. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thanks again for your presentation, and we look forward to working with you and hearing from you in the spring. And thanks again to Elaine Farr for joining you, and Mr. Ferguson, thank you for your presentation. Thank you. Thanks so much. Next, we'll move to adoption of minutes. It has been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak, that the... Thanks very much for joining us, Scouts. Thank you, Mr. Ferguson and Ms. Farr as well. Thank you. Apologies, Council. It's been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak, that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. Those are the minutes of the regular meeting of Council on November 4th, 2013. Any discussion, errors, or omissions? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. In that meeting, we did receive notice from a councillor and a resignation, so part of that is business arising from the council minutes. It's been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor Papp. Whereas Ward 1 Councillor William Larry Clark has submitted a letter of resignation effective November 5th, 2013, and which letter was received with regret by council at their meeting held on November 4th, 2013. And whereas under such circumstances, the Municipal Act, Section 262(1) states in part that council shall at its next meeting declare the office to be vacant. Now therefore, Council of the Town of Pelham hereby declares one Ward 1 councillor seat for the Town of Pelham to be vacant effective immediately. Don't know that there's any discussion required. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. And we do have a report in our committee portion of our meeting later on this evening dealing with that vacancy and suggestions on how to fill that vacancy. The next item is consent agenda items for separate consideration. I wonder if there would be any items that members of council would like to lift for separate consideration, not for questions, but for separate consideration. Councillor Papp?
I apologize for this, Mr. Mayor, but I wanted to, in the CAO's report back in Cow, he mentioned something about the proposed arena staff lunchroom, and that there was a need to have the area rezoned. I wonder, rather than, I'd like to revisit this, and I'm through you to Madam Clerk, of how we could re-examine that report that we approved way back. It was submitted on October the 21st. And then as a follow-up, as the CEO mentioned to us last week, or 2 weeks ago, that this, in fact, that requirement would require rezoning, and I want to maybe bring it back on December 2nd, give us a chance to talk about it, or we can do it. I think it's too premature right now,
So
and I
Councillor,
apologize.
no, that's okay. So it's in the Committee of the Whole minutes?
It's the CAO's report.
Madam Clerk, can you,
I just want to double check those resolutions, if you just give me a moment,
Okay.
please.
the clerk is double checking the resolutions. I guess the resolution at that point would have been to receive the CAO's report. And I think she's checking if there's any other,
I didn't bring it with me, but I know it was in.
yeah.
Sorry, I just need to get to the resolution
Or
sheet.
should we lift it? I have it here. The resolution is just this, that the committee received the CAO's report for information. Should we lift that? Is that what's?
Yeah, you should lift that and deal with that separately then. if
So
you
the
want me to take
resolution
different
sheet
action.
and minutes, or,
No, just that one resolution.
okay,
And, no, the minutes are fine because they're just reflecting what was done at the
right, okay, so we're getting some procedural guidance here. Counselor, what the clerk's suggesting is that that item, the monthly CAO's, the Chief Administrative Officer's report, you could lift that from the resolution sheet, which is, where is it here?
I just want to get it.
There's the minutes, so 11.1,
That's what I was going to ask, that, can we lift that, and
okay?
then I'll just very quickly.
Well, and we'll deal with that after we,
That's perfect, if you don't
okay?
mind.
So you're lifting that
Yeah,
item?
I'm lifting that
And
item.
it's just a simple request to lift that item,
That's all.
okay? Others to any of the items in block under consent agenda items? Thank you. So it's been moved by Councilor Ribbiak, seconded by Councilor Papp, that the following consent agenda items be received for information and the recommendations contained therein be approved as applicable. 1, resolutions from Committee of the Whole, 17, 2013, November, this would be November 4th, right? Or November 18th right now.
Yeah, November 4th.
November
Save
4th,
and accept.
2013, save and accept the resolution regarding the CAO's report. The second item, minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting on November 4th. The third item broadly are staff reports for action or information. The first is the Niagara Community Design Awards in Urban Design and Architecture. The second is the refund of a sign permit fee. The next item is correspondence from the Ministry of Transportation regarding an agreement renewal. And the next item is Municipal Property Assessment Corporation Property Assessment Notice. The next item, Niagara Region Notice of Statutory Public Meeting and Request for Comments. The second to the last item is the City of St. Catharines GO Rail expansion and resolution. And the final item is the Committee of Adjustment minutes of November 5th, 2013. Any items that members would like to discuss on that or make comment on? Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know exactly who to address this to. I wanted to get some clarity with respect to the 11.4.1, the Ministry of Transportation Agreement renewal. How are we involved in licensing? Do we do internal testing of our own, or what is the implications of that? I don't understand.
Thank you. I'm signaling the fire chief knows the answer to that. Mr. Chief.
You, Mr. Mayor. We have signing authority. We have someone on staff that's actually one of our training officers has the signing authority for training and testing and renewing of licenses. So the ministry has just revamped that program, and they've come out with a new set of rules, if you want to say it. And there's 3 disciplines that we're required to do that each driver's, and some of them are upgrades or renewals, and some is every 5 years they have to renew a license. So we want to retain those services to offer to the firefighters, and we just have to hold the bills up to renew it for. So it'll be in the new year. The ministry issued it, and then now they pulled it back because they're finding that the way they wrote it is not working out exactly as planned. So they pulled it back, and they're going to review it. So I anticipate it being the new year.
Thank you, Chief. Councillor?
So it's specific for the fire department. It doesn't have anything to do with the fellows that are driving the big trucks out on the roads.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. They
it's
still are required to do the same, but they have to go to a ministry license office to do it.
I see.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Councillor?
Is there any way that we can bring that internally? Would that facilitate the process, or not really? Is it a money thing, or?
Mr. CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To answer the councilor's question, we could, but it would cost us a lot more.
I see.
So this is the most practical way of dealing with it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Others to that issue? Others to any other issue? Certainly appreciate the report regarding the Niagara Community Design Awards in Urban Design and Architecture. It's great that we are applying for that. And a member of the community, I know Councillor Papp knows him, Mr. Ganyu was a member of that committee, and it suggested that we apply for downtown Fonthill. So it's great to see that we're applying for a portion of the downtown, and looking forward to the results of that. Are we ready for calling the question on these items? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Councillor Papp, you lifted one item for separate consideration. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be very brief. In light of our consideration of the proposed arena staff lunchroom, I've been given some additional information that I think is pertinent to us moving forward on this. Along with, I appreciated the CAO noting that we needed a rezoning to be applied to put this building up. And there were some other components that we were looking at, additional dressing rooms for women's hockey and that. I wonder if I could ask through you, Mr. Mayor, and the staff to bring this back at a future meeting on December the 2nd, just to let's get all the things put together so we have a good idea of how we're going to proceed with this. If that's, if my colleagues are okay with that, that's what I'd like to do.
Okay, so you'd like to receive the CAO's report and ask for this issue coming back to council
Propose the arena
on
staff
December
lunchroom,
2nd. Councillor, just for clarity,
Yeah.
are you proposing that information regarding the change room be included in that? Is that what you're suggesting?
Correct. All those components, I understand, there were some parts of it that, the whole comprehensive plan on how we can deal with that request for the change room, the lunchroom, and all that be brought forward to the council, if possible by December 2nd, if not the following meeting.
Okay, thank you. I need a seconder for that. Councillor Kersey will second that. Any discussion? I think the CAO may want to ask for clarity. He looks a bit befuddled. Do you want to get the question from the CAO first, and then we'll move on to council? Mr. CAO.
Mr. Mayor, just so I'm clear, council has approved the purchase of the ACO trailer for the lunchroom facility. this to, is this item being brought back to rescind that resolution, or is it something other than the purchase of the lunchroom? I'm just confused on what exactly the councilor is looking for as far as comprehensive report goes.
Sure, by all means, Mr. CEO. Yes, I would say to rescind the purchase at this point, because my understanding there were other parts to addressing this particular issue along with the other needs that were addressed. And I was brought to my attention, those should have formed part of this report, that instead of just putting the building up or buying this thing, there were other things that we could be doing. So unless I'm wrong, I would like to stop that purchase and reconsider that whole reconfiguration of whatever we were going to do at the arena with lunchroom, dressing rooms, etc. And if I'm wrong, but I think what triggered the red light for me, Mr. CEO, and it's to your credit, is that when I read the report, it says it's open space, we can do that, and then I hear we're going through a rezoning.
Right.
And it just triggered a whole bunch of other things, and I thought, was there other things we could be doing? So maybe you can clarify it?
So, Mr. CEO, does that provide clarity to you?
With respect, Mr. Mayor, no, it doesn't provide full clarity. I guess my confusion is I don't understand the connection between the change rooms and the purchasing of the lunchroom facility. There are things that we can look at with regards to that. I know that there had been some discussion when staff had looked at the arena for tearing out walls in the front lobby and punching holes through in order to, build lunchrooms and change rooms, and that was determined not to be a route that we would go down because of the current condition of the facility, the planning and the research that's going into what the long-term future of that facility will be, and to invest that type of dollars into that type of construction was not deemed to be responsible.
Yeah. I think where the councillor is going, if I might jump in here, and
By all means,
Councillor
I'm not
Papp,
trying to confuse it, I just...
is that, and I recall there was an amendment on the floor as well to kind of delay it pending additional information, having heard from the Pelham Minor Hockey Association. The council put in its mind the idea of how might we combine the two requests, so the request from staff and the request from the community to have some sort of facility that serves both purposes. We heard that evening that it was imminent and some changes had to occur, and I think what Councillor Papp is pointing out, now we're hearing in your report last meeting that there was a zoning change needed, so it's not as imminent as initially thought of, and I think that's perhaps why members of council supported it, because it was an imminent change. And so I think that will provide clarity. I'm going to ask for other councillors. There are some others that want to comment on this or wade in on this, and those are Councillor Ribiak and then Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I too am a little confused, I think, as to why we would delay the decision that we took earlier with respect to a lunchroom. To me, the issue that bothers me isn't that we decided to deal with difficult circumstances in which our employees are eating meals in substandard conditions, and we chose to take what we thought was going to be fast action to deal with it. The bigger issue to me, or the one that confuses me, is that why do we require rezoning to provide a temporary institution for the purpose of having a lunchroom? I mean, it seems to me that one could put a temporary structure just about anywhere, provided that it's mobile and not meant to be permanent to deal with a particular issue, particularly one of the health and safety variety that this one is. So my disappointment is around the fact that we're delaying for, to my simple mind, is an unnecessary planning requirement. It's not the issue of the lunchroom. The fact of the matter is that even if we, and I'm sure we would, want to consider all the other changes that are required within the arena and have a single plan to deal with it, that plan is going to take quite some time to put into practice, and in that period of time, our employees still need to eat their meals. So we would need something temporary regardless. So to me, I don't know why we would want to delay the acquisition of a structure and to allow for place for employees to eat. My concern is why are we rezoning and going through all of that before putting in what seemed to be almost an emergency, or at least urgently required facility for our people. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Durley.
The first matter, Mr. Mayor, that, as I recall from the debate, was dividing the dressing room issue from the lunchroom issue, is that it was a health and safety issue, and in fact, it required immediate attention because of the health and safety infractions that we were currently living under. So in fact, that is, I believe, the rationale for the lunchroom to go on to accommodate staff for things that they actually do need there. The other issue, as I recall, that the original lands on which the arena is built were never zoned properly to house an arena, and I think this is the whole issue, that the rezoning is necessary, and I probably defer to staff for clarification on that, but I believe that something snuck in under the radar, and the building is there illegally because the zoning doesn't really allow for an arena. This is my understanding. I could be wrong, and if I am, then please, clarify. But the lunchroom itself was a health and safety issue, and that's why it required immediate attention. The others were, as was suggested in discussion, that a remedy can be done, but the immediacy of our non-compliance for health and safety matters is the issue that we dealt with the lunchroom.
Thank you. Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With all due respect to my two colleagues that have spoken on the zoning, I view this as an opportunity. Yes, we acted with some immediacy, feeling that there was a health and safety issue. However, my understanding is that the issue of the rodents and what have you have been already dealt with, that we could probably find some temporary accommodation, and if staff were aware of the fact that we were in fact moving in the right direction to solve the problem properly, there would probably be some satisfaction there. Secondly, by just providing a trailer at the back of the building, we haven't addressed the other issues, and that is of providing a change room for girl hockey players, lady hockey players, nor have we satisfied all of the accessibility issues that might be on that building with respect to washrooms and what have you. So I think this is a pause that refreshes. It gives us an opportunity to take a very good second look at the issue, again, to require some completeness in the reports, to combine the issues of change rooms, accessibility, and staff room, washrooms, and lunchroom. And so why not take the opportunity that we have handed to us, get the more complete report, and take a good hard look at the whole issue, and then make an informed decision. And that's why I would support the motion that Councillor Papp put forward. I think it just gives us an opportunity to take a good second look at all of the issues that are surrounding that building.
Thank you very much. I think there's some couple of important facts that I think we need to know. The first is the status of the purchase. Mr. CAO, can you give us an update of that?
My direction to staff was to immediately purchase the trailer.
So has that been done?
I believe the purchase order has gone out, which forms the contract. I'm not sure if it's been completed at this time.
Okay. So that status is unknown. It is, the clerk's looking for it in the report. It is in the report regarding zoning. Is that correct? Yeah. November 4th. November 4th. I guess I'm inclined, that's an important fact, but I'm inclined to see what Councillor Papp is looking at here, and I was at the time. And the reason is this, and I was trying to find it in the minutes of the last meeting. When we received the report, it could be from the CAO, or it could be from the Director of Recreation, or it could be from the Director of Public Works. But somewhere in there, it says that some changes have been made, and that staff are actually eating in a different area. And I don't know if we can hear from staff. I know Mr. Mantle isn't here, but so that particular issue has been solved on the short term. So I'm inclined to think, as Councillor Papp is, well, if something's been solved in the short term, if a zoning is required, if we're hearing from the community that there's a possibility or that something can be worked out for female hockey players, why can't we take this? It's not as urgent as initially suggested in October, but rather there is some time here. So I'm inclined to accept the resolution. Obviously, we have to see whether we've entered into some sort of legal area with that, and perhaps we can ask that that be halted should this motion go through. Councillor Papp, I'm going to turn back to you for comments, and I see there are other councillors that would like to comment.
Sure, and I don't want to belabor this. At the time, yes, I agreed it was a health and safety issue, and I voted in favor of it. I guess I want to make sure that for our own purposes, that the expenditures that themselves, I mean, I don't want to put the staff in any, I heard that the situation with the lunchroom had been solved, and that there were some other related issues regarding accommodating the women's hockey, and that there was an actual plan that was being considered on how to do that to the existing arena. So, I mean, if this building, as we talked about it, at some point could be moved someplace else, it doesn't matter, but what also threw me was the zoning. So I just don't want to see us trying to do it piecemeal, and maybe at the time my biggest concern was the health and safety, but now I'm hearing that some of that has been no longer an issue. So if however, we're in a, and maybe I'm wrong, I hope I am, that there is some other temporary facilities for the staff, and maybe I've been misinformed.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be absolutely satisfied to know that the problem, the health and safety issue, has been resolved in the short term. I'd like to know that and have some confirmation of that, perhaps from staff. I'm a lousy reader of body language at the best of times, but I'm not sure that the CAO understood that the problem had been solved in the short term. So I'd like to really confirm that. Second, with regard to the purchase contract for the Aqua trailer, my understanding at the time of the discussion was that the acquisition of the trailer in the short term was not going to represent a capital loss because we had a use for that trailer in the longer term as well. And perhaps that should be confirmed also before we rescind any purchase order.
Mr. CAO?
I'm not aware of any report that has gone to council that says that the issue with the staff lunchroom has been resolved.
Thank you. And to the second matter? To the second matter? About the use of the facility?
Yes, that stills the fact that the facility will be used until a long-term solution for the arena has been found, and then relocated to an alternative location, more than likely involved with the Works Department.
Okay, here's the report. I just discovered it, and then I'm going to turn to Councillor Durley. Maybe the wrong report has been pulled here. It's the Public Works report, and it's under Arena. An application for rezoning has been submitted and is required prior to the addition of the staff lunchroom. In the interim, alternative space within the arena will be investigated for staff to take their breaks.
I don't believe that staff has been relocated out of their existing space. I'm not aware of that, Mr. Mayor, although I may be incorrect at this point. I'm not aware of that.
Ms. Van Ravensway, can you assist?
Actually, I was down at the arena today. The staff are in the same spot as what they were previously. At one point, the manager supervisor was met in the kitchen area, and that area was looking at a temporary spot for a staff room until the trailer arrived. To this date, they're still where they are. I'm not quite sure if they're following through with that or not.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With all due respects to adding things at this property, in evidence of the leisure plan report, which we just have some information on, that confirms things that we've known for years about deficiencies and possible monies it would cost to bring the building up to date. I'm just wondering if, to throw good money after bad on that site is at this particular point in time, necessity. We haven't made a decision on to whether we're going to have a new arena or redo this arena, so if we do this, and the word piecemeal has been mentioned this evening. If we piecemeal a little dressing room and a little this and a little that, we're compartmentalizing things and perhaps complicating the issue. In fact, if none of this is going to exist in the future, or if the whole complexity of this building and property is going to change in the near future, is it wise to do these type of things right now in a piecemeal nature? And that's a concern I have.
Okay, thank you. I just asked the clerk, given the fact that perhaps the wrong report was pulled, where are we with the motion? Councillor Papp, do you want to?
Well, look.
And then I think we do need to move on this.
Well, what I'll
vote
do
and-
is,
and
I don't
move
want
one way or
to
another.
belabor this. I'll withdraw the motion. I need to talk to staff after about this, because I agree, Councillor Dirty, I don't want to piecemeal it, but I don't want to see spending $70,000 on something that can't be used. If it can be used as we discussed, that's fine. But in the meantime, and I stand corrected, if the situation with the staff has not been resolved, then fine, the safety issue still stays. So, for the sake of moving forward, I'll withdraw this, and we'll see what happens when the zoning application comes in.
Councillor,
I was misinformed, obviously.
Councillor, we're going to have to actually vote to withdraw the motion because the motion is
Well, then
owned by the floor.
Yep.
So we'll do that, and I think
I understand that.
staff has heard the discussion that we've had this evening, that there are some concerns. There's some that want to move ahead, and others that look at this as an opportunity. And this issue will come before council in a rezoning application, I presume, in December, or at some point. Is that correct, Mr. Cieo? So this will be coming
It'll
back
be
to
coming as
council.
soon as we can get it before council.
And I think some of those items need to be answered before,
Answer the,
and that might be included in the report as well.
okay.
Okay, Mr. Cieo, is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we have to move to, Councillor Pat moves to, I guess, take the motion off the floor.
I move that I'll remove my motion to rescind the report.
Okay, thank you. And I need a seconder for that. Is there a seconder? Councillor Durley. All those in favor?
Can I have a recorded vote, Mr. Mayor, on that?
Yes, you can. Of removing the motion?
I think we should deal with the motion. I don't think it should be removed.
Okay.
So I'd like
You
a
can
recorded
speak to
vote.
that. Go ahead.
I think I've already spoken to it. I think this is an opportunity for us to look at it. And my feeling out of this last discussion was that we needed to do a rezoning. Therefore, do not go ahead and order the trailer until we get that issue sorted out. And my view is that we have other issues in that building. I read the report that we recently received from Leisureplex slightly differently than Councillor Durley. And I think there is an opportunity or a necessity that we address some other issues there.
Okay.
And if we can do it all at once, let's do it all at once. All we're saying is bring us more information so we can make a proper decision.
Okay, thank you. So you've called for a recorded vote. I would ask the clerk to facilitate that recorded vote on removing the motion from the floor.
So the
Madam Clerk.
motion is still to withdraw the motion. So I will ask those in favor and those opposed. Councillor Kersey.
Opposed.
Councillor King is absent. Councillor Durley.
In favor?
Councillor Papp.
In favor.
Councillor Rivia.
In favor.
Mayor Augustine.
Opposed.
The motion carries. The
Thank
motion
you.
is withdrawn.
Thank you. And now the motion before us, I would gather, is to receive the
Receive the CAO.
CAO's report. And is that on the floor because of the previous motion?
It's because it was lifted separately, so to receive it as part of the consent agenda, because it was lifted, we still have to receive it.
Okay, so can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Papp and a Kersey, will you move to receive the CAO's report? You have a question, Councillor?
I do have a comment before we.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to be sure that that we understand that we're, as a corporation, not going to hold back on a health and safety issue around a zoning requirement. I mean, it would really put the lie to everything that we're doing if, in fact, health and safety is put on a back burner while administrative stuff is taken care of. That's my only
Thank you.
comment.
It's not really germane to the motion, but you've already said it, so I'm going to call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Now we move to reports from members of council. There are a couple of members I have to get now switched to the meeting here. Council has my report. I apologize, council. These electronic things are wonderful, but you got to skip to them rather quickly. Do you have a copy? Council, the two major items that my report speaks about are the Remembrance Day celebrations that occurred. Here it is. Okay, I found it. Thank you. Forgive me for that. The first is regarding Remembrance Day commemorations that occurred on the 10th and 11th of November 2013, and I wanted to publicly thank, as I've done in the report, members of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 613, the Ladies Auxiliary for the Legion, and the Lincoln and Welland Regiment Army Cadets for organizing really what were heartfelt and very, very special Remembrance Day commemorations at the various cenotaphs in our town in Fenwick, Ridgeville, and Font Hill on the Sunday, the November 10th, and then also at Veterans Park on Remembrance Day. There were hundreds and hundreds in attendance despite the cold weather. And it's just a wonderful commemoration of our veterans, and it's certainly appropriate that we honor them in that way. And I want to thank especially Councillors Ribiak, King, Durley, and Papp for laying wreaths at the various cenotaphs through the town and helping to commemorate on those days. The next item is regarding the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council meeting, which occurred on the next day on the 12th of November. At that meeting, members of the MEAC elected an executive, and they include Michael Ross as Prime Minister, Alyssa Girardi as the Deputy Prime Minister, Jordana Soriolio as the Secretary, Lonnie Seddon as the Communications Minister, and Angit Segal as the Recruitment Officer. Some new members of the MEAC are involved in the executive, and some that have been serving for a number of years, so it's great to see. And later on this evening, you will find on our agenda the bylaw to add these members to the various committees that we have with the town. Certainly the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council is very involved in various committees with our town, and they find it very important that they're there, and certainly appreciate council allowing them to have input on the various committees. These are broken up into the primary and the alternative, and both members will attend all of the meetings, but really when a vote comes and a vote's required, only one member will vote. So that's Kate Irwin is the primary, and Alyssa Girardi on the Communities in Bloom Committee. Nick Lascavo is the primary, and Ankit Segal is on the Downtown Beautification Committee. Abby Lowen is the primary, and Jennifer Pulfer are on the Active Transportation Committee, and they are returning members. And Melanie Lachnet is the primary, and Kate Irwin is the secondary on the new Seniors Advisory Committee. So the MEAC is also very excited to be part of that committee. The MEAC, the Mayor's Youth Advisory, will continue. We have a meeting set for the 26th where they will learn about making motions and amendments, and also hold their first regular meeting. That's my report, members of council. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Next, Councillor Papp, you have a report regarding...
I have a motion for you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because you want to do appointments.
Oh, thank you. So the clerk has indicated that there's a motion, and there is a motion for Councillor Papp's report as well. It's moved by Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Papp, that Mayor Augustine's report dated November 13th, 2013, outlining Remembrance Day commemorations held on November 10th and 11th, and the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council meeting of November 12th be received for information, and that the various Mayor's Youth Advisory Council appointments to advisory committees included with tonight's agenda be considered. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much, colleagues. Councillor Papp, your report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is my report for the Pelham Chamber of Commerce Board meeting, November the 11th, 2013. Highlights of it is that the college students will be competing, Niagara College students will be competing in the World Junior Culinary Championships for the very first time, and they'll be held in Europe in the spring of 2014. This is quite an honor for the Culinary Institute of Niagara College. Secondly, the Aging in Place from Welland indicated that they are working with a group called Leadership Niagara with local Pelham businesses to build temporary accessible ramps for interested downtown stores in collaboration with Fonthill Lumber. I wasn't quite clear on the details, but apparently it's working. The 2014 Business Directory, this is the first time this has ever happened, but is an indication of trying to cooperate with everyone around us, is the Welland Pelham Chamber will be listing all their businesses in collaboration with the Port Colborne Wainfleet Chamber of Commerce. So you will now have 4 different municipalities listing all their business directories. The memorandum of understanding, all of you received this, was signed by all 8 chambers of commerce. They pledge to meet twice a year and work on mutual small and large business attraction and retention in Niagara. A list of the special events are there for you to explore. Tomorrow morning, we have the Pelham Mayor's Breakfast at Lazy Loon at 8 a.m. Hope everybody has a chance to come there.
Hope the meeting's done by then.
I hope the meeting's done by then. What did I say? Oh, by 8 a.m. Yeah. I'll move it. And that's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for your comprehensive report and some great activities there. I have a motion moved by Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Papp, that the report submitted by Councillor Papp and regarding the Welland Pelham Chamber of Commerce Board meeting of November 11th, 2013 be received for information. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you for that update, Councillor, and your ongoing work on the chamber. Next is staff reports requiring action. It's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that the issue summary report encroachment agreement, C.T. Nicholas Enterprise, Inc., Pelham Hills Golf Club be received, and the council authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an encroachment agreement with Nicholas Enterprises, Inc. to permit the use of the unopened road allowance between lots 3 and 4, concession 14, from Weber Road and extending southerly approximately 2,233 feet to the south boundary of the property, to permit the use of the road allowance as part of the parking lot and golf course facility, including permission to allow for the paving of the road allowance, and that the proponent be so advised by the clerk. Any discussion regarding the matter? Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 questions, and I'm not sure who I should direct them to. Number 1, has there been an encroachment agreement in place prior to this to allow use of that property by the golf course? And that this is just taking it to another level? Or was it being utilized just because it was being utilized?
Who's able to, are you able to answer that? Madam Clerk.
This has been a process that has been ongoing for quite some time. We were looking to close the road allowance and sell it. However, as noted in the report, there is a property that would be landlocked should we do that, and that owner was objecting to the closure of the road allowance. So there is no formal agreement in place. This would formalize the lands that have been used by the golf course for some time.
Thank you. And I would add to that, Councillor, that Council may recall there was a road allowance off of Foss in Fenwick area. It was Langan Dunes and Willowbrook that were using that road allowance, and I think this was an activity of a few years ago where staff were trying to clean up the usage of road allowances and trying to come to some sort of agreement either to sell or to come to an agreement like this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question that I have following the clerk's explanation is, we have a policy in place which governs when encroachments are allowed and we can enter into an encroachment agreement, and I'm just wondering on what subsection we'd be relying on to enter into this agreement. Because as I read it, none of the policies specifically deal with the type of use that we're having going on here. So I'm wondering if we're running afoul of our own policy.
Madam Clerk?
We met as a staff, both, actually all 3, the Director of Public Works and in meetings with the CAO and myself, to try and come to a resolution on the matter. And we determined that the encroachment would be the best opportunity to allow the use of the lands that are presently separating the golf course. There are no rigid structures. There wouldn't be proposed any rigid structures on the road allowance. As we understand it, it would just be paved as part of the golf course parking lot. So were the encroachment agreement ever to end, it could still be returned, or if the town were to need it as a road allowance or an open road, we could return it to that status in the future. The
Counselor?
CEO may have something to add, I'm not certain.
That's fine.
Thank you, Councillor. No? Any others? Okay. I'm going to call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you. The next item is execution of site plan agreement. It has been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor Ribbiak. The council receive, issue, summary report, execution of a site plan agreement with Antonio Nunziato for 1518 Pelham Street for information and consideration, and that council direct staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to execute the site plan agreement between Antonio Nunziato and the town for the next regular meeting of council. Any discussion regarding this? Councillor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In my reading of this, I noted that the plan for this is as a condominium as opposed to rental flats. I'm just wondering whether, number one, my reading is accurate, and I'm not sure that it is, but if so, does that make any difference one way or the other?
Ms. Tavasoli.
Is your question if there would be any additional action on this because it's condominium?
Councillor?
Yes, for clarification, I believe we looked at this property once before, and my memory doesn't serve me well enough to tell me exactly when, but I think we were looking at this property once before as a development agreement, and my understanding at that time, or perhaps it was a public meeting, and my understanding at the time was that there were issues with regard to parking and that sort of thing. I'm trying to get a handle on what it is that we had decided earlier and whether it had been presented as a condominium proposal initially.
I don't know if can you answer whether we've dealt with it
Yeah.
before? And thank you.
Actually, we discussed this as on a regular basis. There's no need for the public meetings, but in some cases, it might be needed. We are working on that with the region and asking for some information, additional information, that there would be any need for any public meeting. But in a general standards, there's no need and regular basis. We already raised that question, that if it's needed, we will be notified. We haven't received anything so far, so with the best knowledge that I have at this moment, there's no need.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a matter of fact, as I think about this more, I think I may have read about this in minutes from the Committee of Adjustment. Maybe that's where I picked up the reference. I know that this isn't a new property under consideration, or this development isn't new to the town, though it may be new to us. My only concern with the proposal, Mr. Mayor, is that it seems like an awful lot to go on a very small property, and maybe this isn't the right place to talk about the merits of the development, but I think there must be parking requirements that aren't going to be met, or 8 condos and a couple of shops on that property just seems like an awful lot.
Yeah, well, we don't have the site plan before us, so it's difficult
Right, okay.
to look at it, but the clerk can provide additional clarity. Madam Clerk.
For you, Mr. Mayor, the application did go to the Committee of Adjustment, you're correct. It was actually appealed to the Ontario Municipal Board, and it was approved by the Ontario Municipal Board with some revisions that have been incorporated, so it has gone through the whole planning process.
Okay, good. It's passed us.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kersey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In general, I'm pleased with what I'm seeing here. I'm especially pleased to see that they want to look at the CIP funds that are available. I just have a bit of confusion with respect to the residential intensification grant, and wondered whether Nushi could have a look at the terms for which that money would be made available, whether it needs to be a rental property, thinking that we would be providing rental stock to the downtown core as opposed to owned stock, and that may be a restriction with respect to the residential intensification grant.
Ms. Tavasoli?
We discussed those issues with the applicant regarding CIP, and seems that it's going to be a rental. You know, the property management, the owner would be in charge of property management as well. So that's the intent so far that discussed with us. And they are entitled to receive different grants. And actually, there would be grant from region as well.
Councilor?
On one hand, they're telling us that they're going to be condominiums. On the other hand, they're telling us that they will retain ownership and operate it as a rental property. Will there be terms in the advancing the funds, if indeed there's a clause with respect to intensification and giving out those funds, that if they are ever sold off as individual condominiums, that would be monies that would be refunded back to the community, or how?
I'm going to allow the question for a quick answer, but we don't have that document before us this evening. All that this is a notice for that there's going to be a site plan coming at our next meeting. We don't have that site plan. We don't have the application for community improvement plan either.
You're right.
So maybe if you can just quickly respond to the councillor, and then.
You're fine. I'm fine with that. You don't even have to
We are reviewing, you know, and we have the application and you know, with us, and we are reviewing everything. And those areas is under review as well.
So some members of council are intrigued by the CIP, the community improvement plan process. The site plan, it's clear, is coming to our next meeting if this gets approved.
Yes.
Do you have any indication from the proponent, this might be a more germane question, about the site plan, or the community improvement plan request and when that might be coming?
So just the whole information, I think, would be in the report next time for your review.
All right, so we'll look forward to it then. Anyone else on this? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carried. We look forward to that report. I did want to say that it's nice to see another infilling in the downtown area. This, I think, is the second one of a vacant lot, so nice to see. And we look forward to that application next meeting. It's been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor Ribiak. The council receives the issue sheet summary report regarding the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application file number AM0812. Trevor Marsh for 77 Highway 20 West, legally described as Part Block S, Plan 717, Town of Pelham, and that for reasons outlined in this report, Council approved the request by the planning staff to reimburse $4,000 of the planning administration fees associated with the official plan amendment to the applicant, and further, the Council consider amending bylaw for the professional office establishment as presented on this evening's agenda. Any discussion regarding this matter? There was a public meeting some time ago, and I understood that the reason for the refund is because under the new official plan approved but still at the OMB, they wouldn't have to file an official plan, so we may have to be doing a number of these. Any comments, questions? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Resolution to consider bylaws. Thank you. It has been moved by Councillor Durley, seconded by Councillor Ribiak, that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the following bylaws. 1. Bylaw 3435, being a bylaw to amend Bylaw 3217, confirming various appointments to boards, commissions, and committees of the town of Pelham. 2, bylaw 3436, being a bylaw to adopt amendment number 59 to the official plan of the town of Pelham. 3, bylaw 3437, regarding 77 Highway 20 West, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 1136 as amended. And 4, bylaw 3438, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an encroachment agreement with C.T. Nichols Enterprises, Inc. for the portion of the road allowance lying between lots 3 and 4, concession 14, extending south from Weber Road, a distance of approximately 2,233 feet to the southern boundary of the property, with its appropriate roll number in the town of Pelham. I'm not going to read the roll number. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Next is, would be in camera, that is closed session, and as we tend to do, we will recess the in-camera portion to later in the meeting. So it has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Kersey, that Council recess the in-camera portion of the meeting and reconvene immediately following the committee meeting scheduled for this evening. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. We'll take a brief 5-minute recess before we start committee. Thank you.